Coffee with Jeff. Coffee with Jeff. Coffee with Jeff. Yeah. Coffee.
Well, hello, how are you? My name is Jeff. I'm so glad you could be with me today. Now, watching today's film, I have to wonder, who writes this? I mean, I know who wrote the film, I can look in the credits and see that, but who writes this garbage? Now, I'm not talking about the racism in this film, and there is some racism here, but who types this out and thinks they have written a good film? Did the producer and director look at the written page and say, I think we've got a winner here? Was the writer challenged to write the most boring film ever made? I don't know. Wouldn't it just have been as easy to write something of substance? Maybe not for this writer, huh? You know, at least Burt I. Gordon and Ed Wood and William Castle were trying to make entertaining films, but this, wow, sitting through this makes me question life itself. Like, what's the point? Anyway, today I'm going to talk about a film that was first shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000 on January 18th, 1992. It's The Castle of Fu Manchu, directed by Jesús Franco, or Jesus Franco, I'm not sure how he pronounces it, and it stars Christopher Lee, Tsai Chin, Maria Perschy, and many other wonderful people. This is the episode in which Joel and the Bot sang a happy, cheerful tune called the Satellite of Love Marching Song. After the commercial, the crew begins celebrating their performance when the Mads start bragging about how awful today's film will be. Joel forgets the invention exchange, but Tom and Servo show their new long-distance telephone transducer. Joel comes in with his big head, something he's already used in a previous episode. The Mads create a stinky bomb that turns anyone into Joe Besser, the man-child. At first break, Crow reads an article called Miss Saigon Syndrome about white people playing Asian characters in films, and in the end, both bots break down in tears, making the Mads very happy. Next, we have Joel and the Bots doing a skit on Shriners Flying Carpets when Servo breaks down again due to the film. The Mads continue to celebrate with dinner. And it continues on till the next break as Joel tries to cheer up the Bots, telling them the origins of Fu Manchu, but it all breaks down in tears once again. The Mads eat pie. And in the end, the crew's spirits are broken. The Mads toast to their victory, so Joel challenges them to riff a film themselves, which the Mads fail completely, and the SOL crew finds joy in their victory. Now, for those new to the show, while I'm talking about a film that was first shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000, I'm more talking about the film itself and not so much about Joel and the Bot's treatment of the film, though there'll be a little at the end for you to enjoy, all you Misties out there. He's back, the world's most evil man with a fiendish plan of conquest. Never before seen, the Castle of Fu Manchu. Yes, he is back, the poster's right about that. This was the 5th film in the series, so, but as far as him being the most evil man, you know, there was Adolf Hitler. Anyway, why is Fu Manchu listed as 3 words on the poster? So like I said, this was the 5th film in the Fu Manchu franchise. Before this, we had The Face of Fu Manchu in 65, The Brides of Fu Manchu from 66, The Vengeance of Fu Manchu from 67, The Blood of Fu Manchu in 68, and this one in 1969. Was this the worst one out of the bunch? I can't really say because I've never seen the other films, nor do I ever plan on watching the other films, but according to the book by Tom Johnson and Mark A. Miller, the Christopher Lee filmography, this was the worst one out of the bunch. They asked the question that I was wondering. Why did producer Harry Alan Towers continue to grind out these Fu Manchu movies? Why did the public, presumably, still pay to see them? Why did Christopher Lee continue to make them? Well, I have a quote from Lee. He said, "As I've said, often, Sax Rohmer's characters and novels are first-rate, as were the first 2 films. The final 3 were not. I stayed with the series for several reasons, mainly due to my belief in the character's potential and because, within certain limits, it's better to work than not. I wasn't sorry to see the series end, in no small part simply because I no longer had to wear that very uncomfortable, if not painful, makeup. I look back at the series as a badly missed opportunity. The first one still stands on its own merits as a very good picture. I think the line about "it's better to work than not" sums up a lot about Mr. Lee's career. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, the man likes to work, so more power to him, you know. Now, the writer of Fu Manchu was Sax Rohmer. His real name was Arthur Henry Ward. Arthur was an English novelist who lived from 1883 to 1959. His first Fu Manchu adventure was The Mystery of Dr. Fu Manchu, first published in a serialization from October 1912 to June 1913. It was about the supposed worldwide conspiracy of the Yellow Peril, a racist color metaphor that depicts the people of East and Southeast Asia as a danger to the Western world. Can we all agree that this movie is racist? It is, right? Now, I'm sure somebody's going to write me and say otherwise, that this movie was just a product of its time or some other nonsense, and I shouldn't be so hard on the novel or the movies, but, you know, I've never read the novel, so I'm not being hard on them. Whatever. I do realize that at the time it was acceptable to have white actors dress up as Asians. At least I think it was acceptable in the 60s. I'm not really sure. Anyway, to make things simple, this will be the last time I mention the racism in this film, and whatever. We'll just try to judge the film on its own merits. Now, the Castle of Fu Manchu was a co-production among various European countries, including the UK, Spain, and West Germany. Apparently there were some clips from The Bride of Fu Manchu recycled in for this film, and of course tinted footage of the Titanic sinking from the 1958 film A Night to Remember, and a dam bursting scene from 1957's Campbell's Kingdom. The film was directed by Jesús Franco, or Jesus Franco. Franco lived from 1930 to 2013. According to Wikipedia, he was a Spanish filmmaker, composer, and actor known as a highly prolific director of low-budget exploitation and B-movies. He worked in many different genres during his career, but he was best known for his horror and erotic films, often incorporating surrealistic elements. A few of his notable films were The Awful Dr. Orlok from 1962, The Diabolical Dr. Z from 65, The Girl from Rio from 68, She Killed in Ecstasy from 1970, and strangely, he was the second unit director for Orson Welles' The Crimes at Midnight in 1966. So now, why don't we look at our cast? We have Christopher Lee, of course, playing Dr. Fu Manchu. Christopher lived from 1922 to 2015. Now look, if I have to tell you who Christopher Lee was, well, you and I have nothing to talk about. I will say that he had a very impressive military career before enjoying a 60-year acting career. His best film, of course, was 1977's Starship Invasions. No, I'm just kidding about that. I think that's another one of those films that fit into the "it's better to work than not" category. Tsai Chin plays Lin Tang. Chin was born in 1933 and is still alive today. She is a Chinese-British actress, singer, director, and teacher with a career of more than 6 decades. She played her character in all of the Fu Manchu films. Tsai Chin said of this film, talking about how the plots of all the films were so identical, "I did not bother to read the script when it came to the 5th film." She also talked about her guilt in making these films, saying she let her race down, and adding, "Both Christopher and I always came back. We needed the money. Few actors are in the enviable position of being able to refuse job offers." Some of her other films were You Only Live Twice from 1967, The Joy Luck Club from 1993, and Casino Royale from 2006. Maria Perschy plays Dr. Ingrid Koch. Maria was an Austrian actress who lived from 1938 to 2004. I don't really recognize anything she was in, so I'm going to move on. Richard Greene plays Nayland Smith. Richard was an English film and television actor who lived from 1918 to 1985. He was a matinee idol who appeared in more than 40 films, but he is best known for the lead role in the long-running British TV series The Adventures of Robin Hood from 1955 to 1959. Apparently his character in this film appeared in the previous film The Blood of Fu Manchu, and so this one gets him a special guest credit. I wonder if that was a demand from his agent. Mr. Greene doesn't care about the money, he just wants a special guest credit in this film. And then we have Howard Marion-Crawford as Dr. Perschy. Howard lived from 1914 to 1969. He played the part of Dr. Perschy in all the Fu Manchu movies. He would die later that same year due to a combination of alcohol and sleeping pills. Now, he was very ill at the time, so I'm not sure if it was suicide or an accidental death. Who really knows? So what is the Castle of Fu Manchu? Now, before we get started, I want to say that when this was on Mystery Science Theater 3000, I never paid any attention to the plot at all. So this will be the first time for me. So how many stories begin with the bad guy telling us of his plan immediately?
In the tropical waters of the South Atlantic, my hand stretches out to turn water into ice and to transform safety into the deadliest peril.
That's what Dr. Manchu does, telling us he can turn tropical water into ice. That's the gist of his evil plan, and to make this point, he sinks an ocean liner, with lots of help from his daughter, Lin Tang, and a bunch of henchmen. And I can't help but wonder what kind of benefits these henchmen get. Is there a 401k? Do they get President's Day off? 3 weeks paid vacation? Their benefits must be good because they deal with this type of treatment. Where do bad guys even get these henchmen? And so the ship sinks in tinted black and white footage, and we know that Fu Manchu is responsible. Cut to the opening credits. We cut to two proper Englishmen, Nayland Smith and Dr. Perschy, who are having a picnic. Now, there's nothing wrong with two men having a picnic together, and there's nothing wrong with the little light fishing humor to start off our film.
Bah, Johnny, a damn tiddler!
So they are amazed by that ship that looked a lot like the Titanic, sinking after striking an iceberg in the Caribbean.
Iceberg in the tropics?
What did you say?
Listen. Liner strikes iceberg, hundreds drown.
Good God, where?
In the Caribbean.
Now, to be honest, I think there's probably easier ways to sink a ship than that, but that's just me. Meanwhile, some of the brightest minds in England get together to discuss the situation. The evil Fu Manchu interrupts. He gives them 14 days to surrender or else.
Obedience to my orders or obliteration.
Do you think England let the rest of the world know that this was going on? I would think that the USA might have been a little interested in knowing the whole world was in jeopardy, but hey, that's just me. While the government leaders try to figure out where to find Fu Manchu, we cut to a big boat with two women, Lin Tang and another lady. They are being watched. You'll find that there's a lot of people watching other people in this film, and trust me, it doesn't go anywhere. Anyway, the other lady is Lisa, and she takes Lin Tang to meet Omar Pasha. And we watch the ladies walk and walk and walk, and of course they're being followed and spied on, and I don't care. And I'm starting to doze off when they finally arrive at Pashu's home. It turns out this whole thing is about opium, and a large amount of opium is stored at the governor's castle. Fu Manchu needs Pasha's help to get it, so they conduct a daring daylight robbery. Didn't these men hear the machine guns a few seconds ago? Whatever these guards are getting paid, it's too much. It all goes well. Fu Manchu arrives and Lin Tang chops this dude's head off. I don't know why, but it turns out it was all a double cross. There's a bloody gunfight, and I'm not quite sure why. Many people who were working together a minute ago are killed on both sides, and this takes quite a bit of screen time. Now, whatever just went on here, it seemed to have been poorly thought out. I mean, how many henchmen did Manchu lose here? How easy is it to get replacement henchmen? These are the questions that go through my head all the time. But the bottom line here is Lisa is captured by Fu Manchu. So let me understand this correctly. He needs opium to make the ice, and he's also looking for a new home. Now he has both, and his new home is a castle, and I get it, the Castle of Fu Manchu.
This will make an excellent headquarters. I shall announce that the castle was attacked by bandits. The attack failed, the bandits were liquidated.
Meanwhile, Perschy has found a book written by Professor Heracles that tells of how to turn warm water into ice. Like we care. It's all sort of nonsense that we, as the audience, don't really need to know. He could have said magic and it would have all been the same to me. Now, Fu Manchu is doing more experiments in making ice. And I look at this set and I think how much dry ice was shipped to the studio on this day. But something isn't going right. I'm not really sure what's not going right, but he has a prisoner to help. Professor Heracles. He's the man who wrote the book the other guy was reading a few moments ago. But he isn't looking well. He seems to want to die, but Manchu is having none of that.
I can keep you alive.
Not forever. I'm growing weaker. In spite of your drugs, I'm going to die.
And at this point, I have no idea why he needs the professor. In fact, I never understood why he needed the professor. I mean, he was already making ice in the Caribbean. And then we have this character, a lady walking who thinks she is being watched or followed. And she is. This is more watching and following that doesn't go anywhere. She is Dr. Ingrid Cox, and she is the assistant of Dr. Kurt Kessler. At this point, I'm thinking, what happened to Fu Manchu sinking ships? And look who shows up, the two men who were having a picnic at the beginning of the film. They are there to find out if Kessler knows what happened to Professor Heracles.
He's mentioned on the card that he's moving on to Istanbul.
Istanbul? What's he doing, a circular trip?
But before they can figure anything out, some of Manchu's men arrive. Both Cox and Kessler are kidnapped. And this guy keeps watching everybody. I guess he's selling information to the authorities. Anyway, we spend a long time watching him watch two people carry coffins around. I mean, I'm talking like 5 minutes of film time just to deliver Cox and Kessler to Fu Manchu. And I'm screaming, "Get on with it!" And finally, we get a reunion. This film is so slow. Even the actors are talking slow.
Kessler! Ingrid!
Professor Heracles.
Okay, let's look at where we are at so far. Fu Manchu wants to cause chaos by turning warm water into ice, which he's apparently already done, but he can do it better with Professor Heracles' secrets, right? But Heracles is at Door's death, so he kidnapped Cox and Kessler to give Heracles a new heart. And since Kessler has romantic eyes for Cox, Manchu can use that as blackmail. Meanwhile, Smith and Petrie try to figure things out. Now, just to show how serious he is, Manchu blows up a dam. After Heracles gets his new heart, Fu Manchu gets back to threatening the world.
A further warning to humanity. If the governments of all the nations do not accept my terms, in 4 days' time, I will bring desolation to mankind.
There's a lot of silliness that I don't care about, but at one point, Pasha comes to Manchu wanting to trade Nayland Smith for Lisa. Remember her from the beginning? But Lisa runs away. We find out at this point that Manchu is obsessed with Nayland Smith.
How highly do you value your life compared with that of Nayland Smith?
Try me.
Up to this point, I didn't even know they knew each other, but that was my fault for not seeing The Blood of Fu Manchu, the film right before this one. Pasha is killed by Lin Tang. Now, to make a long story short, mainly because after an hour and 15 minutes of the most boring film ever made, the last 15 minutes has a lot of action. Nayland Smith and an army approach the castle. Manchu threatens to destroy Istanbul. After professing their love for one another, Cox and Kessler use acid to escape their cell. There's a lot of smoke being pumped into the hallways, smoke that seems to do nothing. Water gets dumped on Cox and Kessler. Nayland, Lisa, and Heracles escape. Lisa goes back to save Pasha, not realizing that he's already dead. Cox and Kessler escape because Manchu's henchmen are not properly trained on how to use their swords. Lisa drowns, and the castle blows up because, well, just because. And we finish with Manchu saying,
The world shall hear from me again.
Now that's because there was a 6th film planned in the series, but it never happened. Now, is this film as bad as it seems? I mean, from what I've read, there were different versions of this film for different countries, different edits. So maybe the shortcomings of this film were because of poor editing for the American audiences? Maybe, I don't think so. I just think no one really cared about this movie whatsoever. Anyway, on MST near the end, Joel comments that Roger Ebert said he liked this movie, but apparently Roger was asked about that in 1993 and he said that he had never seen it. Now, when I first started this video series, 2 years ago or whenever that was, I told myself to always be positive about the films I watched. Try to look at the film's good qualities, that type of thing. But man, in this case, I don't know. Anyway, for today's obscure reference, we have this.
No, he's wearing David Byrne's big suit. Check it out.
How about that? Big pajamas.
In 1984, the Talking Heads came out with a concert film called Stop Making Sense. It was one of the best concert films ever made, and David Byrne wore a suit like this. Now, I've noticed many times on Mystery Science Theater 3000, they make fun of the quality of the film. And many times it's not the film itself, it's just the print they have of the film. And that's the case here, because the version I watched was beautiful. Bright colors and everything. So I thought, just for fun, I would compare the two versions.
See, I gave a demonstration of the new and destructive weapon I possess.
Hey, lights, please.
The world has 2 weeks to decide.
Elvis special on conception.
Obedience to my orders or obliteration.
Focus.
Communications urgent.
Kessler! Ingrid!
Professor Heracles.
The film's about 92 minutes, and Mystery Science Theater 3000 showed 77 minutes of the film, which means they cut out about 15 minutes. There were bits here and there, a few lines that were taken out, some scenes were shortened, and there was a whole 10-minute pointless scene of Fu Manchu's men bringing the coffins that contained the kidnapped Cox and Kessler to the castle. And that scene, that's fine. Get rid of that scene. Anyway, if you want to lose the ability to enjoy life, it's on YouTube in its complete form, in glorious color. But I wouldn't recommend watching it. It could bring on life-threatening depression. Though I wouldn't be surprised if there are some fans of the film out there, because there always seems to be a fan of every film I watch, and let me tell you, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with liking what pleases you. Anyway, why don't we look at the best 2 minutes of this film as it was shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
I won't do it! I won't do it! So I called down to the desk clerk. I said I had a leak in the sink. He said, go ahead, the customer's always right.
A ding.
A real bad man with a plan that's fool.
Meanwhile, in downtown Ames, Iowa. Catalina Camper, right?
Oh, wow, I'm so high. Hey, who hasn't had a nightmare like this?
I'd like 2 espressos over here, please. Oh, I can't watch this. I mean, I can't see this.
Wouldn't it be great if we knew who they were, where they are, or what they were doing? Yes, we know how long this has been on. Don't shove it in our face.
Really?
Susie Wong was arraigned in Los Angeles County Court for impersonating Marlo Thomas.
I am Susie Wong.
I am Susie Wong.
No, I'm Susie Wong. Well, I see by the old clock on the wall it's time for more boredom. Mannix.
Not move your fools.
Accepting the award for editing.
Next week on the Castle of Fu Manchu.
Hey, just drop the ball and take a stroke.
For crying out loud.
Never find it in that rough. Oh, yeah, like we believe this. The gate to immortality leads to the front yard.
Oh.
Sure.
Hey, stay off the carpet with those dirty shoes.
You know, if he was going to express an emotion, now would be the perfect time to do it.
It's too late. Oh, come on, things are blowing up. They weren't even in this picture.
Grease, they just blew up.
Monticello.
Joel, this movie really isn't very good, is it?
No, it's
Movie
not.
sucks,
It's
Joel.
not very good.
It really stinks. That was just clown.
You know, I got a comment the other day from one of the old biographies I had done years ago. I used to make my biographies and I would appear on camera. If you've watched my recent ones, you'll realize I just narrate them now, but back then I appeared on camera. And he asked me the question, who are you trying to be? I was taken back. I'm like, what? Who am I trying to be? I'm just being me. It's funny, every once in a while I get a comment like that. People telling me I should be more this way or stop doing that or I should try to be, whatever. I got a question from one, or a comment from one lady one time. She says that I come off as too aggressive. And I just responded back, I'm just being me, because that's all I can do. And then she sent back a message saying, and you can't take criticism. Okay, that's life on the internet. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll be back in 2 weeks to start Season 4 of Mystery Science Theater 3000 with the 1969 film Space Travelers. That's a repackaged version of the film Marooned by Film Ventures International. It stars Gregory Peck, Richard Crenna, David Jansen, James Franciscus, and Gene Hackman. And it was directed by John Sturgis. Some pretty big names for Mystery Science Theater 3000. I want to thank you for watching. Take care, and you stay healthy. Bye.